If you would like to start climbing outdoors, then keep watching. Rock climbing is very different from climbing in a local climbing gym. So for that reason, I have collected 8 learnings that I think that you should know before you make the transition. And I'll also share a few very good beginners rock climbing destinations in Europe that I think you should consider visiting. And of course, we'll also look into what specific gear you should bring, but we'll look into that later in the video. First of all, start with single pitch sport climbing. This is what resembles indoor climbing the most, so you can easily build up skill from there. And one thing you'll soon discover is that you can't climb as hard as you do indoors. And there's a few really good reasons for that. First of all, the holes in your local climbing gym are colored right. And you don't have that luxury outdoors because it can be very hard to identify the climbing holes. Because they all tend to look the same. And especially on easier routes, say up to French 6A, the amount of climbing holes is so vast that you spend a lot of time searching for even better holes. And you'll consume a lot of energy on that. But as you start progressing outdoors, you can start navigating by all the chalk marks that other climbers have left behind. And that makes things a whole lot easier. Another thing is that outdoor rock climbing is a mental game. Falling outdoors can be a bit scarier than falling indoors. You'll probably find that the distance between the boulders are longer than you're used to, and you'll take longer falls. And that takes a bit of a time to getting used to. So I would recommend starting really slow. Start a few grades below your red point level in your local climbing gym and then build up from there. There's many great destinations for beginners around the world, but if you're based in Europe, I would highly recommend going to Italy. Especially Arco near the Garda Lake is a fantastic place to start. Here the distance between the boulders are very short and you'll feel protected all the time. And that is something you'll definitely not find in Germany, where there'll be longer distance between the boulders, and often it's only the crux sections that's actually bolded. Depending on where you go rock climbing, there's some special gear that I would highly recommend that you bring. First of all, get a handful of maillons, also referred to as bale beaners. If you find yourself on a route that is too tough, then you can place one of these maillons and get lowered off of that instead of having to leave one of your quick draws behind. Because in the long run, that becomes pretty expensive. And you would never want to be lowered off directly on the bolts, because this can really significantly damage the rope. And speaking of ropes, I would highly recommend getting at least a 60-meter rope or even a 70-meter rope. Because the routes outdoors are often longer in your local climbing gym. I would also recommend getting a rope that has rock protection that would protect it against dust and sand. This significantly increases the durability and the lifespan of your rope, and it's definitely worth the investment. You should check out brands like Mammut or Edelried, who make some really excellent outdoor climbing ropes. You should also consider getting a rope bag for your rope. With a rope bag you can easily carry the rope around at the crack, and the rope bag will also help protect against sand and dust. There's many different options out there, and I own the Petzl Cliff, which I find is a really good rope bag that can contain both my rope and my harness, my shoes, and some water and some snacks. But if you're on a budget, then one of those blue IKEA bags actually gets the job done quite well. As there's no quick draws already pre-attached to the balls outdoors, you need to bring your own. There's loads of different options here too, and there's a lot of different kinds that you can select from, but we'll cover that in a later video. But for your first set of quick draws, I would probably go for something like the Petzl Express or maybe the Black Diamond Positron. These are quite cheap and really durable. And in terms of selecting quick draws, you should get a good variation of different lengths because roots doesn't necessarily go in a straight line, and you would really like to avoid road drag, especially on longer roots. Personally, I carry the DMM Phantom, which is a really lightweight quick draw that comes in 3 different sizes. And depending on where you go climbing, you should obviously get a guidebook for the area. A guidebook will help you get an overview of the different climbs for that particular area that you're visiting. Personally, I like having a physical guidebook in my hand, and the ones from Rock Facts and Vertical Life are really excellent. But in these modern times, you can actually also get mobile apps that contains topography of major cracks. And actually both Rock Facts and Vertical Life offers such apps. When I research for a new climbing trip, I often start online. I go to ukclimbing.com to get an overview of multi-pitch climbing, and then I also use 27cracks.com for sport climbing. But often I find that these crowdsourced websites are not enough. And then I go to amazon.com or kletterführer.net to pick up a guidebook for the area. And finally, get a huge amount of sport tape so you can tape up your fingers. Making the transition from soft plastic in your local climbing gym to the hard granite in Chamonix or limestone rock in Arco is really tough on your fingers. So if you like this video, remember to hit the like button below, and if you have any questions regarding how to start rock climbing outdoors, then leave a comment below.